Thank you, Mr. Damewood. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Coffee County Board of Education's monthly regular board meeting, August 12th, 2024. At this time, we will start the meeting with a moment of silence to reflect. God, we come to you on this beautiful day, full of joy and grateful for all the blessings that we've been given. We're so thankful for our staff and our children. We are blessed by all the resources that you provide us each day. We are especially thankful to live where we do, allowing us to enjoy this wonderful community and for us to have the ability to meet freely and make decisions for the people that live around us. Help us make decisions that benefit all that are involved with our schools. Help us to be mindful of those that may not readily see that they need our assistance. I pray that you continue to bless and guide this board, because your input is needed to enable us to perform the best that we can. Help us to realize that we're working together, and when we work together, it allows us to accomplish anything we desire. In your name we pray. Amen. This time I'd like to stand, and Carly, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time we're going to welcome our student ambassadors. Does Mr. Parsley want to, we're going to do you want to tell them how we're doing the student ambassadors this year and introduce the two that we have for this month? And you will need to come up to the microphone, please. Good afternoon.
All right, so this year with our student ambassadors, which are positions that students have applied for traditionally in the past, we had decided that this year we would like to try to get I guess you might say, more diverse representation of our student body. And we can do that by involving more students as student ambassadors. We've had two student ambassadors in the past who have done a tremendous job. Every year they have. But we thought we would utilize our Student Government Association members. And so our junior and senior SGA members are rotating this year. And a few of them will serve as ambassador a couple of times, and a few of them will serve one time. And for this month, the student ambassadors are both junior class representatives for student government, and they are Carly Freeman and Layla Cooley. And so they are here with us this evening, and at the appropriate time, we'll be ready to give a report of what's going on at school.
Okay. Thank you. And we like to welcome y'all as the student ambassadors, and if you would like to have any input during the meeting, feel free to catch my attention, and we would love to hear if there's anything that you can enlighten us about. We will let y'all speak at the end of the meeting and maybe tell a little bit about where y'all are in school and what you're doing, and then give your student ambassador report. So I'll give you a little notice on that, and we'll come back to you in a little while, but welcome. Okay, at this time, I've had a request on our general consent items on policy 2.804 to pull that out and make a budget item, a action item of that one particular policy. So during the motion, if we would like to remove that. And I also had a request to just switch action items number 4 and 5, do the after school programming first and do the daycare supervisor compensation second. Okay? So I have had those two requests from the agenda that has been provided. So at this time, I would like to open the floor to accept the agenda and pass the agenda items except for 2.804 with the modifications. If somebody would like to make that motion. Okay?
Second.
Okay? So we've had a motion. Mr. Cordell. And a second, Mr. Crabtree. So we would have 7 action items, and 4 and 5 would just be reversed. Any questions or different concerns? Hearing none, we're going to vote to approve the agenda and pass the general consent items that are on the list. Ms. Rose.
Aye.
Mr. Crabtree.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 1. ESSER 3.0 approval, fiscal year 2025. Dr. Lawson, would you like to speak about this?
I will yield the floor to Ms. Krista Cole, who can speak much more knowledgeably than I can about this.
Good afternoon. The ESSER 3.0 application is a standard procedure that we go through with the approval, the board approving ESSER 3.0. This is the third phase of ESSER funding. So we've had ESSER 1.0, and we closed out that. We've closed out ESSER 2.0, and we're getting close to closing out 3.0. So that's where we are with 3.0. Districts are given until September 15th to obligate funding, and we're given until, September 30th to obligate and December 15th to liquidate the funding. But we're in good shape. We are close to having everything paid for. So this is basically carryover from the application that's already been approved. There was a slight change from FY24 to FY25 it was less than $1,000 in professional development. But other than that, this plan has been aligned to the FY24 plan. So this is carryover. I appreciate having the opportunity to have ESSER funding. We've really been able to do some things, and I appreciate your work too, because it's been a lot of work on all of us, and this funding is coming to a close.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lawson. Approving the ESSER 3.0 approval for fiscal year 2020-25 comes with your recommendation?
It does.
Okay, you've heard the director's recommendation. I'd like to open the floor for a motion to accept the ESSER 3.0.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Crabtree, Mr. Parsley. All right. Questions while she's standing here waiting anxiously?
I know, I wish there were, and there's no controls to rotate them.
What are the remaining funds being spent for? Just refresh us a little
Ma'am.
bit. Refresh us upon what the ESSER, the remaining funds are being used for.
The remaining funds, so we have funding in professional development stipends for letters training. We've paid stipends for that. We've paid for the chairs, fold-up chairs at the different schools. We've paid for, most of the funding has been in building improvements. So, Mr. Shores, you may want to correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we have HVAC. Our last payments, I think, will be with Train. That's coming up, but most of it's in building improvements.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I see the biggest portion, looks like we're rolling it into regular capital outlay. Is that correct?
Oh, so if you can't see that, I tried to save it where you could see it the right way, and it will not
That's
say
okay.
that. So if you
I got a
will,
long neck.
I wondered why you were doing that, and then it hit me. If you will, you can
Screen over here to
download
make
it.
fixed.
Now, if it would raise
If you
up,
hit
it
the
would
download
freeze.
arrow, then you'll be given the option to turn it where you can read it.
But that is that correct? You're just gonna move it over into capital outlay for the next year?
It will be used to pay for like the chiller at Raider Academy, the HVAC systems on top of COS, the HVAC systems on top of Hickerson. Like Ms. Cole said earlier, the chairs, the carts, that the schools will be using like for graduation and, awards days and so forth. Those are some of the large things that's still to be finished.
But it bases out of the capital outlay line item.
That's gonna be, Ms. Nelson, as far as how this actually worked within the system.
So yes, these are just carryover purchase orders that we've already written out of those lines.
Okay.
This is just finishing up the payments and the work on what was left open after FY24 was finished.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
page 11 of the plan, Ms. Jones, to get back to your question, that gives more specifics on exactly where the majority of that funding is going to. And it does talk about the cooling tower, chiller at Raider Academy, HVAC units at Hickerson and COS, replacement windows of Hillsborough. So the majority of the cost, they're located in 76-100, 707 building improvements.
Okay, so the approximately 300,000 that was set aside for bleachers at the high school went into, I recall, it went to the HVAC systems. Is that correct?
That is correct. For costs,
Okay, for the cost center.
for the cost center.
Okay.
And I don't think it was 300,000, but the money that was set aside for the high school, the handrails, did go towards the cost HVAC systems and the chairs.
But in order to close this out, everything has had to be approved already, correct?
And paid for.
And paid for.
And if we could have done that by June 30, this wouldn't have been required of us. But since we weren't able to do that by June 30, then we have this extra step. But we're close. And the state will allow districts to apply for an extension, but that's not going to be necessary for us. We're in a good place.
Thank you.
These are certainly funded a lot in the last 3 years.
It has really expedited a lot of the vision and the plans when it comes to building improvements and personnel and technology. We've been able to cover a lot of ground very quickly, so thank you all for your help in working with that.
Any other questions for Ms. Cole?
I know you put a lot of work into all this, so thank you for
Thank
what you do. You do a great job.
I've had a lot of help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to vote to approve action item number 1, ESSER 3.0, the approval for fiscal year 2025. And Mr. Crabtree, you've got the first vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Action item number 2, Visitor Code of Conduct. Dr. Lawson, you would like to speak on this?
I will. What happened in the last legislative session was there was a requirement that was placed on school districts to craft and publicize a visitor code of conduct. One of the steps in there was that it had to be reviewed by the board attorney and that kind of thing. And so Chuck Cagle, he created a code of conduct for TOS to distribute to all districts. And we looked at that, and it was incredibly thorough, but it was also many, many, many pages long. And we discussed that, but it had been reviewed by our board attorney, and that's what we looked at initially. Then a director in Tullahoma, Dr. Katrine Stevens, she sent a one-page one out to all the districts in South Central. And the one that their board attorney had looked at and created, and it was a one-pager, which summarized a lot. Well, as part of the process, it needed to be reviewed by our board attorney, and so I sent it to Mr. Cagle when I was talking to him about another topic. And he contacted me, we looked at the existing document, he recommended a change, he recommended another addition, and that kind of thing, and after that, he thought that it did a fine job of representing that. Met with supervisors, had them look over it, and double check some things. There were some grammatical things and there were some other issues, but we feel like we've got that cleaned up, and we feel like this it fulfills the requirements as we understand them that were passed for a visitor code of conduct. And so it is now something, like I said, it spells things out and does a pretty decent job of it. And it has been approved by the board attorney, and I recommend we adopt this particular one.
Okay, you've heard the director's recommendation to accept the visitor code of contract that we have been presented. I'd like to open the floor for a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Parsley. Mr. Cordell. Questions on the code of conduct?
Does item number 1 include clothing too? I've had some parents send me pictures of parents showing up at schools with rather questionable clothing on. So,
When you say cursing and use of obscenities,
yeah, so clear obscenities and on clothing and yeah.
basically, I might put something like that more under number 2. If there was something that was visually disruptive in the office environment, the principal is allowed to request that person to leave the premises.
Okay.
Because there are certain clothing choices that could definitely disrupt school or office operations.
And this will roll into a policy or just be a code we'll keep on hand?
It's not necessarily a policy, we just have to the law was passed separately, it didn't say it needs to be included in policy, it could be, but basically, it's required that we have one. And obviously, as times change, this is a living document. The board can elect to modify this should there need to be additions or edits.
So you're leaving it up to the office personnel to determine if the dress is disruptive or not? It's not any parameters for it or anything?
Well, we have never developed a dress code for visitors in our building. We have dress codes for students and for staff and that kind of thing, but we have never discussed a dress code for visitors. So
Well, my point was, one person, it may be disruptive to one person, but not to another. So you're giving someone leeway to say that, you see what I'm saying?
If we wanted to discuss that would be something that I feel, if we're going to impose a dress code on citizens and that kind of thing that come into our schools, that would definitely be something that I would want the board to play a key role in developing, but no.
No, I'm not suggesting we develop this dress code. I'm just making a point that if we say that that's how that would be enforced by the person, up front, then, one person may not consider that disruptive and another might. But I didn't mean to get into all this, but I just see that could make a problem, possibly.
Okay, are you proposing a change to this visitor code of conduct?
No, I'm just making a point.
Okay.
That it's not in here that they, that.
I think it's vague enough that a principal or the staff's gonna have to prove a valiant case if it's disrupting or threatening. I don't think it'll ever be an issue if they could wear it or couldn't. Getting into a difference of opinion. If it's bad enough that they're gonna ask them to leave because of it, then they've got a pretty good case. It'll probably be proven anyways to do that.
But aren't there a couple things on there that would involve the police? But yet it just says that you're gonna be asked to leave and maybe not be allowed back on the premises. But I mean, I guess if you physically attack someone or if you.
Just about every
possession of a
one of them
weapon.
is at least disorderly conduct.
Right, and we understand the school district, we have SROs in each of our buildings. We do not basically the SRO and the sheriff's department handles charges and that kind of thing. So yes, my guess is if there was a physical attack, number 6, for example, intended to harm an individual or substantially damage property, this is just saying, hey, they shouldn't do it. They should already know that, but they shouldn't do it. And as far as the legal charges, we would work with our sheriff partners
Okay.
to make
Everything
sure
on
that is
this.
followed through.
Everything
it
on
would
this
lead to that.
additionally, right,
lead to
everything on here additionally is pretty much a law enforcement thing. Top is more us, I guess.
Have we experienced problems, a lot of problems with this to initiate this code of conduct?
No, ma'am, this was created by the legislative session by the Tennessee State Legislature.
So we're not experiencing this.
We have not experienced any upturn in issues. This was just a requirement that was handed down by the state. I'm going to say that had anybody engaged in most of these behaviors in our offices and that kind of thing, they would have been asked to leave or escorted out by the sheriff's department, even without this visitor code of conduct.
Now, is this just posted in the offices?
I believe it has to be posted, it also has to be distributed, so but it has to be approved before we can take those steps.
Like I wondered, would it be in the gymnasiums?
It's quite possible where we'd have a good number of visitors, that's a consideration.
Any more questions, concerns?
Could it also be a part of the packet of information that's distributed to students?
It will be each year following this one. Obviously, it's just now being approved.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to find other means to distribute it this year, but primarily, in the future, it would be included with registration packet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna vote to approve the action item number 2, the visitor code of conduct. This time, Mr. Cordell, you're the first vote.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Moving on to action item number 3, surplus items. Mr. Shores, you wanna?
Once again, we have several items that are just not used anymore, not needed at the building. And this is just asking for us, for board approval to surplus these items and to dispose of them.
Okay, surplusing these items comes with your recommendation, Dr. Lawson?
It does.
Okay, you've heard the director's recommendation to surplus the items on the August 12th, 2024 list that we've been presented. I'd like to open the floor for a motion to surplus these items.
Second.
Mr. Cordell and Ms. Jennifer. Any questions about the items? Hearing none, we're going to vote to surplus these items. Action item number 3, Mr. Gilly.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. Okay, so at this point, we are going to go to action item number 4, which will actually be the after-school programming. So, Dr. Lawson, do you want to speak upon this?
Well, what I will do is each board member last week received an email attachment that was the presentation that everybody will see here momentarily. We recognize that it's difficult to see the TV screen for some people, so it's in the supporting documents on the screen in front of you. You can follow along. But I will be asking Ms. Garner to come up and just give her quick presentation, the links and that kind of thing. Board members have had since last week to kind of follow those, but we'll be glad to answer any questions. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Garner.
how the electricity got kicked off.
So everybody should have had it in this packet.
Totally agree.
Sorry. I'm Tanya Gardner. I've been the director of the after-school program for the last 4 years. As you'll see in your package, it has an introduction of what the 21st Century Grant was. It was a 5-year grant. We were on our 5th year. We just completed our 5th year, so we had to rewrite for the grant again. It's a competitive grant. And you'll see in there, if you click on application, it has all the things that you have to do to apply for this grant. And it's open to not only school districts, but to churches, to nonprofits. So you'll see all of that in the application if you click on that. And I've also, if you click on the proposal, that is exactly what we proposed for the Coffee County schools. And we got that proposal by doing meetings with parents, meetings with staff members, meetings with the excellence staff, and meetings with students. And also by gathering lots of data. So when we had the 21st Century Grant, we had to keep every kind of data you can think. So it was compiling all of that data and putting it into a proposal. So you can click on proposal and you can see the proposal. And then you'll see the E-Plan budget. They give you strict guidelines for the budget, and so if you click on that, you'll see the budget. So all of that was submitted on March 27th. It was a 2-month process. And then on July the 26th, and they did say, the state told us that it would be the end of July before they give us their, like if you got funded or not. So on July 26th, we got an email at 5:07 p.m. That was a Friday afternoon. So we got the email that said we had not been approved for the 21st Century Grant. We had applied for $500,000. So they had 3 reviewers to review your proposal, and then they would each give it a score. They would look at each section. There was a rubric, and they would give you a number. The cut score was 88. Coffee County Schools got an 84. And you can see, if you click on all of the reviewer 10 comments, reviewer 11 comments, you can see why they scored and what they scored. After reviewing the comments, we did a letter of appeal. There were a few things that stood out to us, and one of them was one reviewer give us a 7 out of 20 when I think one reviewer give us a 16 out of 20 and one give us a 19 out of 20. So there was a big difference, a significant difference. But you had to be really careful with the appeal because they say you can't appeal the reviewer's score. So you can only appeal the process. So we appealed the inter-rated reliability because of the difference in the scores. So we submitted that July 31st, and they have 30 days to let us know. There were 83 applicants this go around. They said they had never had that many applicants, and I believe 27 million was requested, and they only had 7 million. So the likelihood of us getting an appeal, I don't know. But we submitted it, and we shall see.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How many were approved out of the number you said applied? Do you know?
I have no idea because you can apply up to 500,000. You know, so if everybody applied for 500,000, there were 14 awarded. You know, but I don't know. I know some districts would not have applied for 500 if they only have 3 schools. You know, so we won't know probably until all the appeals have been taken care of because you have 30 days to appeal and then they have 30 days to get back to you.
I think I'd heard like 22 were approved out of the, how many did you say applied?
83.
83 or something.
Yeah.
So that was just a number I heard thrown out there, so.
Well, it makes me feel better if it's 14 got approved, you know?
I
Because it's very disheartening. I've lost sleep over this. It has been devastating, I know, to the staff, to the students, to the families. So this is really been something. So
did you write the original grant
I did not. So Jimmy St. John, he wrote the original grant, and I come in a year after that. And so I took a lot of notes from his because he wrote a wonderful grant. So I'm like, I'm gonna
So
follow
what we
the
were
best.
doing was trying to reinstate that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So, are there any questions about the grant and the proposal, any of that? It's all in there. If you look through it and you have questions, just let me know. So after speaking to Dr. Lawson and the rest of the team up here, we decided that we would send out a survey. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just, Ms. Yunch has pointed out that there was preference points given to some districts too. So can you speak on that? 'Cause
Right.
we didn't get any, I take it.
We
So
did
were one
not.
of those.
No,
Yeah.
I forget what the qualifications were to get extra points, but I know that we did not get any of them, and it has nothing to do with us. It may have to do with, the poverty or something, but there were two different ones that we just did not qualify for. So, and that helped other districts for sure. So we sent out a survey, I think on that Monday or Tuesday, after we found out that we didn't get this grant, to find out, okay, well, would parents utilize a program if they had to pay for it? So we sent out a survey. Those are the questions that it asked. It asked for who your child was, the grade, what school, and if they would pay for a program that costs $10 a day. It's very short and simple. We got 697 responses, and out of that, 436 respondents said that yes, they would utilize a program that they had to pay. So once we got that survey back, we just come up with some proposals. We come up with a budget, and you'll see that budget one, it included details on an after-school program that charges $10 a day. And we use the same structure of like we've been using for the last 5 years with the Excellence program. It's structured. So we have tutoring time, we have homework time, we have time for STEM and physical activity and for a snack. That incorporates all of those structured activities, and it keeps a good ratio between students and teachers. That way you can actually get stuff done. Because if you've been in a classroom or in the after-school program, if you've got 50 kids and you have 2 people there, you're not going to have a lot of structure and you're not going to get a lot of things done. So looking at that $10 a day, it really took into account having a structured program. And then we looked at the $5 a day, and if you want to go on down, if you click on the budget one, you can click on that and it'll take you straight to the budget. The way we figured this is from the numbers from the survey that we got, we used 50% of those that said yes, because we know just because they said yes doesn't mean that they would be staying every day, all day, or every day. So we only used 50%, yes.
So on the survey, did you survey all parents or just the parents that had been in the program last year?
All parents at all the elementary schools and all the middle school.
Okay. So,
And if you go back up to the survey, if you click on that,
yeah.
you can go and it'll tell you how many from each school and how many from each grade. It'll tell you that in that survey. Yes, sir.
I know that the Excellence program was a Monday through Thursday program, right? Would this be what you're asking for here, would this be a Monday through Friday? Would it be
Well,
same
so
scheduling or?
when I sent out the survey, and like I said, I just put this together really quick, I was thinking, okay, Monday through Friday, because I know we would need some income. But whenever we started coming up with budget ideas, Dr. Lawson had said, we've been running Monday through Thursday for this long, and it seems to have been working. So all of these budgets that I did are Monday through Thursday. And it's Monday through Thursday from 3 till 5 versus 3 to 6. Because keeping up with the data for the last 4 years, there's not a whole lot of, students after 5 o'clock. The majority is gone by 5. So all these numbers are Monday through Thursday, 3 to 5.
Okay, thank you.
So that's with the $10. The $5, because we figured it's less money, maybe 65% of those yeses would actually utilize the program. So that's how we come up with those. And it's an approximate hit on the fund balance or wherever that money comes from of $94,000. And these are just rough estimates because we don't know how many people really would be staying. So just keep that in mind. Yes, ma'am.
Back to that point at 5 p.m., I had parents asking me why it was just going to be at 5, because some people don't get off work until 4:30 or 5.
Right.
So you're saying that there aren't that many children that need to be after 5 o'clock? Because I know of 3 that do.
Yeah, well, and I'm just saying for the most part, after 5 o'clock, our attendance is very limited. It's a lot smaller.
So we're doing away with that. As
Well,
far as,
these-
so those children couldn't attend because they won't be able to, they wouldn't be able to be picked up at 5.
Right, and this is just a proposal, I mean. So, based on those approximate numbers, it could be $94,000. Then this one is, if this was free, like if we used, this kind of around the same number of staff, if we have the same number of kids, doing the same structured program that we've been doing, for the last 5 years. It's less than 500,000 because with the 21st century, we had to have so many hours per staff member do professional development. So that was a big chunk of change, just paying for hours for them to get that professional development. So that's one way that we've saved money, and other trainings that we would have to send them to. So that's why it's less than 500,000. But that's if it's a structured program, just like we've been doing for the last 5 years, is the free educational program budget. And that's based off the numbers. If you click on the average daily, it's back there on the PowerPoint. If you click on the average daily attendance, that's the average daily attendance from last year in the program.
Ms. Garner, I have
Yes.
a question about budget 1 and 2. Is this a fee that you have to pay regardless if your children are there that day or not, or you pay if they go that day? Like, would they need to pay up front for a week in order to pay the staff, or is it, oh, I'm here today, here's my $5 or whatever?
So if I were going to do it, I would say that they would need to pay up front. And I think that you can make it work if they pay up front and they tell you what days their kids are going to stay, as long as that we can get the correct amount of staff, I think it would be fine. But I think that you would have to plan and pay ahead of time.
So this will be going back to mirror sort of what was the ESP program in days past, correct?
So this one right here, where we've got the free educational program, this is a very structured program like we have been doing the last 5 years. The next budget, where it says budget 4, this is more of the traditional ESP. We're not paying teachers, we're just paying the teacher staff or the teacher assistants or high school students. Your ratios are gonna be a lot bigger, so you're not gonna get the tutoring and probably not gonna get, a lot of homework help. It's just more traditional, babysitting.
Children have a place to go after school.
Children have a place to go.
Okay, so on the $5 and $10 a day ones, you got 70,000 in here, and this was pointed out to me by someone else, but for the site director, and then 59,500 in the full cost, we'll call it, and then the traditional ESP, 49,000. So what is the difference in those?
So I put the salary for the site directors if we're taking money, because that's a whole nother level of responsibility. And so, that's why that's why the costs are different.
Okay, but it's more if you're collecting money from the parents to fund the program for the site director?
Well, I'm talking about the site directors are going to have to be collecting the money.
Okay, or the supervisor's what I'm talking about,
Yeah, that's the site directors or the supervisors.
Okay,
If they're not having to collect money, then it's,
oh, I see, okay, so you're putting in okay, so I guess I'm confused, because the site director is not just a fixed position? So the hours are variable based on whether you're collecting money or not, or I'm not?
No, I just, whenever you are having to deal with the money, I felt like that was more responsibility, and that's why I had put their salaries as being more, I believe, on
Okay.
am I, I mean,
I'm just curious that,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
are you looking at budget one?
I'm looking at, well, I'm comparing all four, actually. For budgets 1 and 2, it's 70,000. For 3, it's 59.5, and then for 4, it's 49, so.
Okay, so right here, the side director, 10,000, and this is for $10 a day. So they will be handling money. So every day they're handling money. We have to make a bank deposit after we collect money, after 3 days. You're gonna have to make sure you're getting the money.
Okay.
And this was just my thinking. I mean, no one's told me to do this. This is just what I put out there because it's what I felt. So,
Okay.
that was just, they're having to deal with money. I feel like that's a lot more responsibility than if you're not having to deal with money.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, I was just wondering what the difference was, yeah, so.
If we go with the one that's the premium one, the 300 and something thousand that's taken out of fund balance, that is in essence the same program that we have now. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So there'll be remediation and the same type of programming, except it'll still just be till 5 o'clock?
Yes, that's how I figured all of this.
Okay.
And I just go to New Union because it's my first one
Okay,
there.
will there be, in that amount of 300 and something thousand, will that, amount include your salary?
No, I have not got me on this.
Okay, so you're not taking any part of this?
No.
I understand 20,000 was taken out of the other for your salary.
It was,
So you're
yes.
taking a $20,000 cut?
No, I don't feel like there'd be a need for me to stay after school and to run this program. I did the 21st century because of all the reporting and the
Administering the grant.
yeah.
Right.
No,
So
I did
you-
not.
so
I did
that
not put
20
me in
So
this.
you won't be collecting a net 20, so your salary will be less 20,000
Yes,
by not having the program.
right. In any of these, I didn't put a salary in there.
Is this grant something that we can, is it only every 5 years or is it every year?
In 2026 is when it can be written again.
So worst case, if we done the budget option 3 for 2 years, we don't see much change at all, other than ultimately it sounds like you probably gonna take a pay cut.
Well,
Right.
I'm not.
Unless we get to the next agenda item.
I'm more. I would be more concerned, like if you say, "Oh, we're gonna fund this for the next 2 years until 2026, and then we're gonna write this again." I don't have any faith that we'll ever get it again, and that's just where I'm at because I feel like the money they're getting less and less money. So I would not want to go in there thinking that maybe in 2026.
Well, what
we'd
I'm getting
get-
at is, as far as the less impact on parents currently, this late in the game, starting this year up, I think, me personally, I think that's something we need to consider, is trying to figure out a way to fund this and get through this and kick the can down the road until we can accurately find out exactly what we can do or can't do.
Right.
But also, as you kick the can down the road, you realize that costs are gonna increase, so it's not anything that's just gonna stay what
No,
you're
I mean,
saying it is.
It's a Band-Aid,
Yeah,
Band-Aid
yeah.
for right now that helps the parents.
Right.
To where we could, because obviously I would, definitely entertain, especially with our fund balances the way they are. I don't think parents need much more burden in life right now, if possible. And, that's just me.
I have another question. Aren't we required to offer remediation because of the 3rd and 4th grade requirements? And will that still be done?
Well, Ms. Jones, I believe that that's done during the regular school day.
Okay, so that's taken care of
Yes,
within the
ma'am.
school day? Okay. So there's no after-school, we haven't been having any after-school remediation in the past?
Yes, we have during the excellence program, and I think the first year, maybe after ESSER, do you want to speak on that?
And that was my concern, because I knew the excellence program provided that, and I didn't know how it would be provided now that it's no longer
No,
funded.
There, as Ms. Garner said, there was plenty of remediation at all levels provided through the 21st Century Program, but we cannot enforce attendance and that kind of thing, and so we prefer the required remediation that are a result of the 3rd and 4th grade retention bills. We prefer to provide those within the structure of the regular day where we can enforce attendance and make sure that those students are meeting certain minimum standards on time and that kind of thing. But no, there was remediation in the after-school programming, but it was not necessarily designated just for that particular piece of legislation.
I do think Ms. Jones brought up a good point, the fact about the 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock or whatever. You feel comfortable and confident, and I see people that have worked the program out here, that students leave enough at 5 o'clock that it's not needed? Or is our program, if we had to start it back up, something we should see what we would have from 5 to 6 o'clock and then look at changing that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
I'm not gonna stand up here and say we didn't have any kids stay until 6. We have kids stay until 6:15 and 6:30 sometimes.
I started
So
saying we probably
I'm
have
not
them
gonna
stay a
say-
lot later.
I'm not gonna say that we don't have any kids, but I'm saying if we're really having to look at like funding and
that's what I'm-
hours, then you may consider 5 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
I know there's several
Thank you.
people in here who work with excellence. Do any of you have some thoughts you'd like to share or some wisdom to give us about this program?
I just want to say on the earlier one that Mr. Ballard was talking about, he was asking what the difference was in the pay, because those two, the top two, I think, are structured like the ones that Excellence was, and where it was less money was more or less a babysitter. So that would be our reason, you know, to make more pay, because we would also do the art, you do your reading, you have an hour of homework, you know, it's more structured where, like you said, the later one.
Right.
the later one.
Yeah, and I wasn't questioning the teachers, I was the site director, so.
And which I was.
Yeah, okay, okay,
that's
got
why.
it, got it, so, and I was just,
That's why it was just the more structured.
it was just why the discrepancy, and yeah, and that got explained, so I get it, so, thank you.
I will say also that not just remediation, but I'm the site director for Deerfield Elementary, Leanne Chastain. And I will say that there was also enrichment. I mean, my kids were also getting an agriculture club that they had not gotten before. They were getting STEM, they were getting music, they were doing programs. They're the ones that came up and performed for you for the board, the ukulele club. That was part of our excellence program that we ran at Deerfield. So I think that that would be something that the kids would lose also.
I don't wanna lose none of the ground y'all've gained,
Right.
even if it means paying something, I think.
And I would just say about the 5 to 6 o'clock, just from, I'm the site director at New Union, you know, maybe 5 to 6 kids from, you know, 5-ish to 6. So you're looking at paying the people to stay there for those 5 or 6 kids.
And most of the ones that stayed till 6 o'clock or after were parents with, you know, they didn't work.
Regina, do you stay then for? Okay,
I'm there till 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Sometimes 6:30.
Would you,
do you get paid for that? So, okay,
We got paid for
got it, okay.
would the program benefit more from having it Monday through Friday as opposed to, I mean, you're doing away with that hour?
That's a good point.
Honestly, it's gonna be very hard to staff a Friday. I mean, we don't wanna stay there late on a Friday, and it's hard to get teachers that wanna stay late on a Friday, so. I don't know.
But I mean, it's 5 o'clock, that's about the time that most people get off anyway, so that's, I mean,
We also took Connie Heatherly and Alec Hillsborough, we took a survey regarding that, the Friday work for our staff, and a lot of my teachers, they
said no, that Friday was their one day that they can go and make appointments or do their shopping or something.
I'm gonna tell you no.
And I believe Mr. Shores, he was at East Coffee for lots of years, and I believe they did do Friday at one point. Mr. Shores, do you want to speak on that?
We did have it on Friday. We did the 5 days a week, and the numbers for students showing up, it dwindled on Fridays, as well as trying to find people to staff the program. You just couldn't find people.
And I'm not advocating for it. I just know that we're in an open public forum right now where people can watch on TV and understand what people are saying from the different sites. So that's what I want more than anything to be discussed, so.
I filled out that survey. I work at North Coffee for Excellence, and the reason that people were saying no is because we're saying no for Fridays was because it was ending at 5 every day. Most people, I know at North Coffee has the most numbers. That is not the case that there's only 5 or 6 kids from 5 to 6. There are, probably like at least 40 kids up until 5:30. And then at 5:30 is when a bunch of kids start leaving. So it does depend on the school.
So maybe the hours could vary by school based on what you said.
And that was my point. Those 5 kids that where would they be if they weren't there after, if it's 5 per school, that's
We could downsize
30.
staff in that last hour.
Maybe if a school had so many enroll or whatever, then it could say 30 minutes extra or something, so.
But I know how it is. Parents won't, a lot of times they don't show up at the ending time, and teachers are still there and having, and staying later.
Right.
So I know that's an issue too.
Just from my own perspective, I work for myself, so I'm able to get my kids at 3. There were a lot of days last year where they would beg me not to come get them because they wanted to stay at Excellence. They had a great time. They loved it. They did so many really cool things, and they would get to pet a snake, or they would do this, or they would do that. So I think it's very important that we do what we can to have one of these budgets where it might cost a little more for the parents or for us, but we have to keep Excellence the way that it is.
Would around Christmas be enough time for some more data to see
I think so,
numbers and things of that nature? And
definitely.
if we need to change a few things up, look at more funding or less funding or whatever. Like I say, just kicking the can down the road sounded bad, but this is more just a Band-Aid to keep from
No, and I
losing
didn't
all the
mean that.
ground we've gained.
I didn't mean that by that way. I just
Yeah.
meant
I
a year
know,
down the
I know.
road, costs go up, things increase and
Right.
stuff, so we would
We
have to
can
look
get
at more money
an
then.
idea of that too, depending on, if, I'd love to make a motion now, but I'll wait till.
So basically what we're looking at, if we go the same route as what it is now, is 300 to 500,000 each year to keep the program. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So our budget would be increased each year, 300 to 500,000 to include this program.
Yes, ma'am.
Could I point out something? An option. And I don't know, I know how the timeline worked with 21st Century when I was the site supervisor for it. Many times we didn't learn until the middle of September whether or not we were gonna get that money or not, and we rolled the dice and started programming, hoping that we were gonna get it, and thankfully, we did. You've got parents out there who are not prepared to pay that $10 a day, $5 a day, whatever it is. This is coming at them at the last minute. I think it would be a nice goodwill gesture if we as a board said, okay, you were counting on this, we didn't get the money that we thought we were gonna get, we're gonna fund it this year. But you understand that if you want this to continue for the following year, there could well be a charge for it in the coming school year.
Right,
But,
we've
I
gotta
mean,
see change.
You know, if I were paying for childcare right now and all of a sudden, this rolled up and I'm gonna have to start paying $40 a week for childcare, that's a chunk of money that I was not planning on. And, thankfully, we do have some money there where we could go ahead and pay this for 1 year, but just let the public know we're gonna do it this time. But the odds are, I want to congratulate you for keeping this 21st Century grant as long as you can. They never wrote this money up for schools. Schools just jumped on the bandwagon to try to get it. It was for Boys Club, Girls Club, YMCA. That's what this grant was originally designed for. So I think it's great that we've had it as long as we have here. But that's just a suggestion. Pay for it for 1 year with the understanding of that money may never be coming back to us again. And if we want to continue this type of programming, we're going to have to, it's going to have to be paid for, because we don't know where we're going to be with getting those teacher salaries up to $50,000 a year by the time that deadline comes up too. And that's one of those things the legislature said we got to do, so.
Is it still being awarded for 5 years at a time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm an advocate of fully funding the entire program for this year because it's so darn late. And as Ms. Rose says, you're catching people by surprise and then start planning, you know. And what would that planning, I mean, we wouldn't just submit the grant. We'd have to start looking at, assuming we're not going to get any money next year, then we'd have to look at where that money's going to come from. But my question is, we have, the total would be $323,446.70 to fully fund the program. Dr. Lawson has some money in a restricted fund, so how much money is there? And maybe this is a question for after we get a resolution, but how much money is there? What would be the hit to fund balance? And how would those numbers play out?
The money to which you're referring, when the school district had a traditional ESP program predating 21st Century Grant, there was approximately $65,000.
That's correct.
It's in the mid-60s, but approximately $65,000 was still in that ESP account. We have simply restricted that and rolled that over from year to year because we knew that there was a chance that 21st Century would not be renewed at some point, and it would serve as seed money or startup money, so to speak, for starting back up an ESP program. And so that money is available, but there, you know, the board has the ability to pass a budget amendment and move money around to utilize that from fund balance and that kind of thing. I will say this: whatever is decided here, we will write up a budget amendment to match that. Whatever our directive is, we will write up a budget amendment, but that would have to be passed at the September meeting, recognizing that there will be a change of 3 board members, but that's basically the timetables that we're dealing with.
Can we agree to do the funding and some limited funding right here until we can get that budget amendment passed?
Well,
I think that's where I was.
What do we need to do to make that happen?
So there are currently no lines in the budget for this program. I would have to build a budget. I would have to build lines into our current budget, and then that would have to be done through a budget amendment, and we would need that passed before we could run our first payroll, which would be in October. This program would start in September. I would need that budget amendment passed through you guys, the finance department for the county and the county commission, which it usually takes around 3 to 4 weeks to get a budget amendment through. So I still think there's sufficient time.
Yeah. Traditionally, the 21st Century program did not start until after Labor Day. So you were talking about September anyway. This program, we would make every attempt to get it up and running because we're built, if it was very similar, it'd be built on an existing framework. I would expect that we can probably get this started on the same timeline, but the people who work the program would not see that increase in their pay because the work in September is the payroll in October.
That's
Is that
correct.
what- Okay, and that's what Ms. Melson is saying. So we can, this board can tell us to get started. Now, if something unusual happened and at the October meeting, or I'm sorry, at the September meeting, that board did not approve the budget amendment, then obviously we would have to have a secondary motion to not do the after-school program because it wouldn't be funded. So that would just have to happen immediately, but I would find that to be highly irregular.
Right. So,
This,
assuming the budget amendment would pass, what would our timeline look like then?
I think the programming could start up right after Labor Day as if it was funded by 21st Century. Because some of the legwork has already been done, or, well, most of the legwork has already been done in preparation before we receive the denial.
But are you going to operate this under the same premise as if it was that? I mean, you did it then, and you did reporting to the government for that program.
Right.
Now this is just something that's Coffee County School Systems. So do we have guidelines that we're gonna follow and all that with the after-school program? Are we just taking their program and just following that? I guess is what I'm saying.
I agree, there's have to be some kind of evaluation of it to see that it's worth.
I mean, we're approving
we're
something,
doing.
but
No,
what are we
and
really
that would-
approving?
That would fall, at that point, basically 21st Century previously has to approve how we utilize 21st Century funds. Ultimately, the board has to approve how we use school district funds. And so I believe, it might have been Mr. Gilly said we could reevaluate at Christmas. So the board can elect to say, hey, we want to evaluate this, and the board would give us a time frame and say, we want to evaluate data and cost and all these things at this time, and we will have that information ready. So instead of sending it all to the 21st Century grant people that moderate that, it would be sent to the board members, and they can reevaluate whether they want to continue it at a certain point. But ultimately, since this is school district funds, it's the board will determine whether we continue that expense or not.
And I guess, Dr. Lawson, what I'm asking is, did ESP guidelines, did something exist back then that regulated and they went under that guidance of that program? Is that what we're gonna re-implement?
Well, that is kind of what this vote right here is to determine, is whether we are restarting an ESP program, or are we continuing with the structured program similar to what we've been doing with 21st Century. That's ultimately what this board tonight will decide.
Okay, but I guess I'm just thinking there will have to be something written in some sort
I
of
think it's
policy that
kind
we
of,
follow.
I hate to sound just kind of bare, but I think it's kind of up to Ms. Garner
Okay,
to supply, well, like we was talking about reevaluating around the middle of the year, success, participation.
oh yeah, and I want them to continue doing the programs and
costs,
stuff
things
that
of
they've been
nature,
doing.
just like you've been doing, but without all the other red tape.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm saying, is I knew there was a lot of red tape to go through.
Yes.
How do you
But as long as we've got data that
circumvent
we
that
can
now and
compare, that it's, hey, we started here, we've really
And-
went here, it helped the kids here.
And there are
that kind of
certain
thing.
things,
That's
Ms.
what you're
Garner's-
after.
There's
Yes.
certain things Ms. Garner's already checked in on. You check to make sure that it's not childcare. It's not technically childcare, it's after-school programming, because if it is childcare, there's certain regulations that have to
Okay.
be met and that kind of thing. But Ms. Garner has started some of that legwork already, but it has not been.
That's what I was
finalized.
wondering, so you all.
Would
help.
that be what we're fixing to talk about in agenda item 5 then, the daycare supervisor?
That's employee
Is that something
daycare.
totally, okay,
That's the
okay,
employee
totally
daycare
different.
supervisor.
But yeah, I can, at the next board meeting, I can give you all a list of maybe some data that I can show, and you all can make sure that that sounds good, such as participation. There's several things that we had to report to the state. I don't know if we want to go as in depth as we would with the state, but there is some good data that we can share with you that can show you the difference that the program is making.
That would be on you, the wow factor.
Yeah, and that would need to.
Wow us about
And that would
Christmas.
need to be up front, the goals for the program, and then you could show how you how you reach those at the.
Yeah, come Christmas, you gotta tell us why to keep going.
I'll be asking for more money.
So the only thing we've not kind of hit on, we've talked about timelines, we've talked about what kind of direction, things of this nature. Extra monies in other line items, it's been here for years, rolled over to help. But we've not addressed the fact that if we're trying to keep this kind of moving and kind of going like it is, your compensation, if you're going to be in the position of overseeing this. That's something that also needs to be addressed in this same motion.
I would argue that if the board expects Ms. Garner to be in a supervisory capacity and follow up and that kind of thing, that should be considered.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
I think this is a full page motion now, this time, if we do, when we get to that point.
And now the ESP, the people that were over ESP, they never got any supplement, did they? And that just came under their job description. They were just added to their job description.
That predates me by a little bit. I believe that Ms. Brown handled it. I am unaware of any supplement, but there was also a member of the finance department that did a lot of legwork, and I believe that she received extra time. But again, that
it
predates
just came under
me.
that supervisor's position, you might say.
I'm not absolutely certain, since most of that predates my time. But I think
It ended like in the first month or my first 6 months. I know that we offered some kind of stipend or small amount of funding for those two people, but I'm not sure the exact amount. I think the hourly person received extra hours, but I'm not certain on what Ms. Brown got, if anything.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Career Ladder helped pay. You did certain things for ESP under Career Ladder, I think.
I don't think so.
At least the supervisory roles and that sort of thing, I think. You had the hourly people that did the ESP, and I think it was Career Ladder as long as that lasted.
I would like to, see of course, we'll see that when we pass the amendment, but I think there needs to be a printout of everything that we're paying for. Since this is coming out of local money, we're accountable for that, and we want to make sure that everything's done correctly, because this is a big deal. And whenever, we start funding a program of this nature, it's going to be hard to stop it. So we've got to prove that it's worthwhile, and that the people that are running the program are doing what they should do, and that sort of thing.
I think Ms. Rose made a great point. There will be a time to stop it if we don't have the money to continue to fund it. And that's what she asked that we make people aware of with this program.
I think our time was really short. The problem is now it's hard to
that's
things on to the
a lot of
the
information.
parents. But
And I certainly think that money with ESP should be the startup for this. I mean, what else would you use it for? We're sitting here with it, in restricted funds, and then there's no better use for it.
But it does have to have leadership down, as Ms. Garner's been doing over that program or whatever. Otherwise, you'll have each school doing something differently and doing differently.
If a board member wants to make a motion that which one of those programs, whether it's $0, $5, $10, and then also define timing. If you please understand, if somebody makes the motion and they say we want programming run from 3 to 6, please understand those numbers that you see will go up, and that kind of thing. But that's ultimately the decision of the board, and we will follow that directive. If they say 3 to 5:30, we'll have to adjust that. And once we have what the board is, 5 members of the board is willing to vote for, we will turn to developing a much more stringent budget, because then instead of having to look at 4 different things, we're looking at 1, and we'll get that to the board members, because that budget will be what will serve as the basis for the budget amendments, or the amendment, singular, in September. So, but I'd try to get that information to you in the next couple of weeks.
Before we get to the resolution, I'd like to thank Mr. I know you've lost a lot of sleep over this, but you have put together a bunch of information here that was certainly very clear. And I know you provided me with some above and beyond stuff, and I really appreciate that very, very much. And it helped clarify things, so thank you very much for your effort on this.
I know you've caught a lot of heat, but I hope you also saw all the people standing up for you across the social medias, and I hope that helped a little bit.
A lot of times I don't think people understood that it was a grant that could run out. That's, so.
Thank you for all you do. It's a complex motion.
Dr. Lawson, do you have a recommendation, or would you like to make a recommendation on this, or would you not?
I don't have a particular recommendation. I mean, understand, I now have more information than I did before the meeting as far as getting input from some other people and that kind of thing. I will always recommend fiscal responsibility, and I didn't hear anything that is not, because as was observed, we do have reserve funds, we have some things like that. It's just a voice of caution, and it has already been expressed. This is the idea that we will continue this forever at an ever increasing cost. That's something that the future boards will have to determine. So I would recommend that this group, go into it with the knowledge that this is a one-year fix for last minute people, but it can always be added to the budget in the future should that board decide to continue it.
No, budget.
Okay, I want to make sure I know what we're talking about here. We're looking for a motion to make a recommendation on one of these three scenarios, not necessarily with a budget
That's correct.
attached at this point. Because although I won't be sitting here, I would hope that whoever is sitting here, would want to see the director get that compensation, and that money is not included in any of these budgets that we have looked at.
That is correct, and not the director. That would be Ms. Garner, not me.
Not
And,
you,
when
no,
we
yeah,
discuss
I'm
that.
sorry,
So-
that director, not that director, okay. I wouldn't want to, I know that there'll be a change to that number. So, if I were going to be here, I would want to know what that new number was going to be, but meanwhile,
Soon as
we got parents out there who are expecting a program for their
Right.
children.
I would suggest that whoever makes the motion, they say we want the programming like 21st Century, define Monday through Thursday. I can say that Friday would be incredibly difficult to staff, if not impossible, as you've heard. But then also as part of that, define whether you want 3 to 5, 3 to 5:30, that kind of thing, with the knowledge that each time you go beyond 5 o'clock, that's an increase in the cost, and you will see that in the budget amendment in September. But that would be, there's several components there.
I will make that motion for budget 3.
I'll second.
I want to change that to include till 5:30.
Okay, so you're saying budget 3 until 5:30?
Yes, sir.
I would second that.
Okay, we've had Mr. Parsley.
Oh, okay.
Do you also want to include in that budget the supervisor or their salary in that budget also?
Are you talking about Ms. Garner?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I will amend that to,
Yes,
I agree.
How much is that?
Well, if we add those 30,
Well, that would be something that, again, if we're gonna talk about Ms. Garner, because as she said, there are some responsibilities she's had with 21st Century that she may not have with this, that we would need to define.
evaluate that and get back with us. Can you do that on that? Also, what the cost would be on the extra 30 minutes?
If you're saying to include it, what I can do is I can include that as several options, and then that can be finalized in the
Vote.
in the budget amendment in September.
There you go.
Yes, sir. That would be good.
So it'd be more like just making a motion to accept budget number 3, adding the $65,000 that's laying there from ESP to this, to fund this, to kick it off.
But we're not voting on money, we're
No,
not
no, no,
voting on a
that's-
budget, we're voting on a
That would be a
program.
part
That
of the
would be
budget
amendment.
amendment in September.
Okay,
As far as
so
desi-
we
all
wouldn't have to
you're-
include that now.
All you're doing is telling us which program you
program
want
we
to
want.
do, and then we will inform you on the funding in September.
Just,
That'd go to
so
5:30.
just maintain what we have, keep going as usual.
Because I
readdress
can
it.
also say that at the same time, I hope that in December, Ms. Garner will come back to us and say, we don't need the extra 30 minutes.
There you go.
Does that make sense? We don't have enough kids that are staying from 5 to 5:30 to warrant that or
Cost is
whatever.
lower than anticipated.
Right.
Participation's down, things of that nature.
Right. I think you asked her to come back in December and,
Realistically, if we had that 30 minutes, and we may be up to around 400,000.
It's.
I mean, that's just a very rough if you pay the
It's very
stuff,
hard to
so.
predict, but it's possible, yes.
I think we really just call this, we're carrying on with exactly what we've been doing, not rocking the boat till Christmas anyways, and readdress after data of us having to deal with it ourselves and pay for it ourselves, see the cost, see what's going on,
and I guess at the
Have a
same
plan
time, how
before
do we make the parents aware or whatever that there may be a cost in this going forward for the next budget school year?
Well, we do it for
I think
1
they're
year,
hearing it right
period.
now.
Well,
It's for 1 year, and we just get that
And you
word out there.
staple a little message to everybody's shirts when they get picked up in the afternoon, so they see it.
So we have a motion, we have a motion, and we have a second, and it goes, the motion changed from 3 to 5:30 instead of 5. We are also, we'll have to add compensation for Ms.
For a
Garner.
district level supervisor position, yes.
What's the time frame now?
The plan would be to start this just like we would have 21st century.
No, I
the
mean
day after
the
Labor
time,
Day.
is it to 6 now or to 5:30?
5:30.
Oh, it's to 5:30 now,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what the motion was for, to 5:30.
Oh, okay, but
It
I
was
mean,
written
what was,
5, but they made it to 5:30.
but what my question was, we say we're doing the same thing, it's till 6, if we're
No,
doing
no,
the same thing, it's till 6 o'clock.
Same thing within how the program's
Right
ran.
now,
Oh,
right now,
okay.
the motion is 5:30. Mr. Gilly said
I
the same
understand
thing,
that, but,
that's-
Yeah.
okay.
Not the
Yeah.
time, but the
There was
program.
9 other amendments. I got lost
we
on
need to
So it's
understand
not,
some of these
so we're
numbers
not
are gonna
making a
change,
program
too.
exactly like what we've got now.
The way
Everything
that-
except the
very
time
similar to
frame.
What we got now is just till 5:30.
Instead of
Correct.
6.
Instead
Okay.
of 6.
Same thing as what we got now, just till 5:30, not 6.
but we'll also look at the 5:30 in December.
Yes, but we can revisit,
Yes.
the board can revisit that in a few months.
Yeah, after they get some data and cost.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we need the motion
Yeah,
restated.
let's
as
make it
as-
clear.
As well as the second was made before there was changes to the motion. So we need to make sure we have a friendly amendment from, Ms. Peacock.
I have to say that out loud, you're gonna have to tell me what to say.
I make a motion to approve budget 3, extending that until 5:30. And to also consider in this a supplement for Ms. Garner for overseeing the program with an evaluation in December of the entire program.
That sounds good to me. I
Is it my
think I
turn?
know, I think I know what your expectations are, and we'll start to build that budget this week.
Okay, and I will second what Brent just said.
Okay.
A lot fewer words. Nice.
Alyssa,
Got a little
have the
muddled.
motion and the second, and it should be cleaned up now.
Wait, let's change it. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. We are going to vote on this after-school programming as we just, the budget, as the motion has just been made to approve. Mr. Ballard, your vote.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0.
Dr. Nestor, can I say one more
Thank you,
thing?
Ms. Garner.
Yes.
I almost
I wanted
got
to
cotton mouth
say
on that one.
to everyone that is watching on YouTube, I want to encourage you to just take a second and get on your Parent View and update your contact information, because both my husband and I got, I think, 2 phone calls and an email about this survey, and I've seen a lot of people say that you did not get one, and you should have. I wish more people would answer these surveys that we send out. So, friendly encouragement to update your Parent View and your contact information.
Thank you. All right, so now we are going to action item number 5, daycare supervisor compensation. Dr. Lawson?
Yes, this is, back at the spring retreat, we discussed the viability of a employee daycare program as far as trying to provide daycare for employees as much as possible. Some districts have done this as a recruiting tool and that kind of thing. It's definitely a service that is available. At that time, the board said that they wanted to move forward with that, so we got a job description approved in April for the supervisor position, the person over the employee daycare. We have not been able to move forward with that yet because we did not have a compensation level, as I explained in an email to board members. We are suggesting setting that compensation level basically at the same pay, the hourly rate that is received by our finance employees, as far as in our finance department, because in both situations they are responsible for money, they're responsible for state reports of various kinds, and have that level of responsibility. And so that's what we are looking at, and that's where I was recommending that particular level of compensation be placed.
So your recommendation would be?
And it would also be a 211-day contract. So just clarifying that. Like our finance people work year-round, this person would not work year-round because we would not be providing daycare programming in the summertime.
Okay. So our motion needs to be to approve the daycare supervisor's compensation on.
To approve that the daycare supervisor be placed on the same pay line as the
Finance
hourly
department.
employees in the finance department.
You've heard the director's recommendation. Would we like to entertain a motion as such?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Rose and Mr. Crabtree. Questions about this compensation?
How much would that be?
That would range, do you have the?
While she's looking that up,
Ms.
is that a 7 to 3 each day job, Monday through Friday?
What would happen is, and again, we would have, once that person's in place, we're gonna need to work with them with a schedule, because the daycare would actually exceed the 8-hour time frame, because teachers would have to be able to drop, or employees would have to be able to drop their children off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. So we talked tentatively, it'd be an 8-hour day, probably from the 7:30 to not 7:30, 6:45, in order to get ready for people to drop their children off at 7, and then be an 8-hour shift. So we would have to figure out who would have on-site responsibility for the pickup, because this person would be an hourly employee, and they would not. It's not a salaried position, and so we have to be a little more careful with the work.
I have a question. The 21st Century Program has guidelines, and they know what they're going to be doing, and they know the schedule and where it's going to be. Do we have that for this program?
Well, we
I
are.
mean, that one thing. First of all, the salary, the funding. Would it be local funding?
Well, the board, when we talked about it, the board voted to put the compensation in there for this person, and then what we would do
You're going to develop the program after we hire somebody, or before?
What we're going to do is work with this person to finalize the details on the program. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, can you give us some details now?
Okay, it would be for employees. There would be a daily rate. The savings, our daily rate would be set at market rate, so to speak. We have, we would We have checked on a few of those numbers, but we have not settled on a consistent daily rate. The savings for our employees would primarily be because they don't have to pay for days they're not utilizing at spring break, fall break, Christmas break, and summer, and that kind of thing. They would pay for the days they utilize. Can I tell you what that daily rate is? No, not right now. This is something that Ms. Sizemore has taken point on to a large degree. She has already sought some permitting, some made sure to get this process started. But that's part of the reason we need to get this job posted, is so that we will have somebody who is ready to take this over and start working on this as a full-time job. And so,
I think this is a wonderful program, but I don't think there's been enough, not anything specific about what the program's gonna be, where it's gonna be located, how many children are gonna be involved.
The location is already selected at New Union School.
Okay.
And so that has already been done. What else do you, I'll try to answer any questions you might have if we have answers to them.
Okay, the liability, have you checked into that for, and what age children are you?
What we're going to be doing first, again, without Ms. Sizemore here, we're not gonna be starting with infants at first. There is a much higher level of need, there's a much higher level of supervision required for that birth to 1 year old. So we would be looking at first doing an older child, then moving our way down as we could. And so that, what we told staff, and we sent out a survey back last year, trying to find out age ranges and that kind of thing. As soon as this person's in and we have a more consistent date, we're gonna resurvey our employees, and that's what we're gonna try to hire our first individuals that are actually providing that direct care. But we will have to get that information. Right now, there is just simply some information. I can't tell you how many kids it will have. I can't tell you how many employees it will have. We're gonna have to do that, and right now, we have people who are trying to build this program in addition to all their regular work. I really want to hire this person so that they can devote their time to it. Our goal is still to start this after fall break. But employees have been informed that that may not happen, but we're going to try. But once we have a compensation level, we'll be able to post this position tomorrow.
Is your staff on board for this, to throw this out there this quickly?
I remember back in the spring, I believe you had about 44 or 45 on the survey.
How many employees, how many children do you have that's gonna be affected? Or employees at this point?
That number is, without Ms. Sizemore here, and off the top of my head, I don't know how many people would fit into that category. But this was something that I did share those numbers at the spring retreat. This board approved us to start this program, and I'm just trying to continue that.
And all we're talking about right now is setting the pay scale for this person.
So we can hire that person and get things, yeah.
And then they will be able, if we can hire them in the next week or two, then they have basically 40 hours a week to get all the details worked out and get this program started after fall break is what we're hoping. But the board chose to guide, we proposed it to spring retreat, the board chose to move forward with this program, and that's what I'm attempting to do.
It's one of those steps. Okay.
I think we voted to approve the job description, but I don't think we have voted to approve the program. Isn't that? I think it was kind of just in case we wanted to start the program that we approved the job description. Am I wrong in that?
I would have to go back and look at the minutes.
Yeah, I don't remember how it was.
And that, I mean, here we don't remember, we don't know what the program is, but we're hiring somebody. And I'm wanting to do that. We're gonna do that, I'm sure. But I just feel like that we're jumping the gun by not having some parameters in place. You said the location. Well, we don't even have any idea how many children are gonna be involved. You've got to get a permit, cause it's basically a daycare. All those steps have gotta be done, or some type of schedule. You know, I would just like to see something in writing, you know, not just to hire, and where is this person gonna be, in the finance department?
And no, they would be on site at New Union.
Their pay would be in
Pay would
line
be
with
the same as the
Okay.
finance. So
So they would be housed there. They're-
That where the daycare would be.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that needs to be written up, you
Can
know.
we table this until the next meeting with Ms. Sizemore here to give?
We can do
You
that.
can,
maybe-
but you may prolong when you can you're gonna lose it by a month. You're gonna be
No,
opening
that's-
up a month
I would
later.
just like to talk,
That's
I would
fine.
like to ask Ms.
There's a little bit
Sizemore.
about me that wonders, are you gonna worry about, people that need daycare have already gotten daycare probably for this school year or whatever, I'm assuming, I don't know, but that's,
Okay.
are they gonna all of a
No, I-
sudden take their kid out of wherever it's going now and?
They have a better option than if this is a better option.
And it
then
may
would.
be, may very well be.
And I'm
just-
sure there's gonna be
Yeah.
employees that'll take advantage of it. It's just, I just hate to see us start something when we really don't know what we're starting and hire some, you know. I'd like to ask Ms. Sizemore some questions, because
Somebody
she's the,
to
one-
figure it
isn't she
out.
the one that's gonna be,
We're missing
She,
details. and-
she has taken the lead on this,
I'm
and
in
we're,
agreement.
like I said, we're just trying to, what we hope to do is hire somebody
She
who can take
wants
over
all
the
the answers
details.
to these things.
I'll
She
make a
wants
motion to
when,
table it
how,
and get
why,
further-
all this sort of stuff, and you don't have anybody to answer it, because they haven't hired anybody.
So we've had a motion, a second, and then a motion to table.
I'm gonna suggest instead of a motion to
Kathy and
table,
Larry.
It's
is a
instead of
motion to
postpone.
postpone.
Postpone would be better, then it doesn't.
Postpone until the next
Otherwise,
board
you have to
meeting.
take it off the table, so.
I'll make a motion to postpone it until the next meeting.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Second,
So we can vote on we can vote to postpone at this point. Okay?
And I would also like for maybe questions Ms. Jones is asking any other board member to be presented to Ms. Sizemore to get back to us. Now's your time to,
Well, you can send your concerns.
Oh.
Directly to her.
You can directly send your concerns to her, what we would like to, it might be good to give her
For her
some
to be here.
enlightenment of what you expect of her next meeting.
She probably knows by now, though.
oh, yeah.
She's watching YouTube, isn't everybody?
So we're voting to postpone till next meeting. Mr. Parsley, I believe.
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Rose.
aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes that postpones it to the next meeting, 9-0. Budget update, Ms. Nelson?
So I will say before I get started that this is a preliminary update. June is not closed and will not be closed until August 31st. So what you're seeing in front of you will change for the September board meeting. I will present a final budget update for June in that meeting. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on kind of where we stand right now for the 23-24 school year. As of right now, we are at 97.83% revenue, compared to last year at 96.19%. And then expenditures are currently at 84.96% compared to last year of 88.34%. And I said this will change for next meeting. But if you have any questions about this budget update, I'll take those.
What are your expectations? We hit 100% on expenses, on our projected expenses.
Can we answer that, or do we need
Let's
a
get a
motion?
motion to,
Okay.
let's go ahead. Dr. Lawson, does this update come with your approval or recommendation to
It
accept
does.
this? All right,
So
we've heard
moved.
all right, so we've had a motion to approve the budget update by Mr. Parsley, is that right?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Jones. Okay, now questions.
So, same question. So, what remaining expenses do we have to come in, and how close are we gonna get to 100% on those?
So I will, for revenues, we have 1 month of sales tax and then a few miscellaneous items. I think we will be very close to 100%. It'll be like 99. I'm estimating being around 99%. But I haven't booked those entries yet. I'm still getting reports from the trustee's office. And then expenditures should be pretty close. I have to restrict funds, so that will change fund balance a little bit. But other than that, we just wait until the end of August for items to come in to that maybe we like invoices that were June invoices that we haven't received yet. So could it change? Yes. Drastically, no. So I think expenditures will be pretty close to what you see on here. But revenues will change. We'll increase a little bit for the last few things to come in.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. You got something else?
I'm good. No, I'm
Okay.
good.
All right, so we're going to vote to accept the budget update. Miss Jennifer.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That passes 9-0. All right, we have one more action item. We had policy first reading 2.804 that was put down as item number 7. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for a motion on that particular policy.
Yes, I'd make a motion on that to send that back to the policy committee. There's some questions I can elaborate on when we get to the discussion part, and I suspect Ms. Frida has
I've had
some
a motion
questions.
to send it back to committee. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
By Ms. Jones. All right. Mr. Ballard, do you want to speak? You want to talk
Well,
about that?
There are some things here, I mean, under, number 3 for meals, for instance, we got, and I understand some of this stuff is coming from the auditor, but I guess what I would like to see is we got the auditor's word for it, but I would like to see something written on some of these items here that are contentious, is something written from the auditor on what accounting standards or state law they are referencing, because TSBA does not seem to have this policy, and checking with other districts, I'm not seeing a lot of this same policy, so it's so I'd like to see something from the auditor, an explanation from them. So far, we've just got some verbal, but something like that would help clarify this a little bit, because this has bounced around a number of times, and so that's kind of what I would like to see, I guess.
I see what you're saying on number 3, if that's
Well,
totally not the definition of per diem.
exactly.
The reimbursement will be made for the meal amount only. If it's less than a per diem, well, then you don't need a per diem. Per diem is a set amount of money.
It creates more of an accounting problem. The whole purpose of a per diem is to simplify it a little bit, yeah. So, I
Not
don't,
go over.
yeah.
Okay. Any more comments or questions? So we've had a motion to send that policy back to committee for work. This time we will vote for action item number 7 to send 2.804 back to committee. Ms. Jones.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. 9-0 goes back to committee. All right. We finished all of our action items. Items for discussion. We have some principals with us today. Who would like to come to the front and go?
Good evening.
Hello,
Good
Mr.
to see you,
Anderson.
folks. Do want to share some events that are happening at Coffee County Middle School. So Thursday night is our 6th grade tailgate for our 6th grade parents, and any parents that want to attend, you all are welcome to attend. It's an opportunity for some of our new parents to come in, spend time with teachers and talk with them and be there for the volleyball game that'll take place a little bit later on that evening. So that's Thursday night. We have a football game that is home. We'll be playing Warren County. So that'll take place on the 20th. Our homecoming this year is on September 3rd. So we're going to do some homecoming activities the week before that. So some dress-up days and that kind of thing on the week prior to the game. So, and then of course we'll have a pep rally on homecoming day and pump the kids up for that night's football game. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, tailgate's Wednesday. I was corrected. I'm sorry. So Wednesday, not Thursday. I apologize for that.
Mr. Parsley.
So we are, I believe, 8 full days of school in, and of course we had a partial day back on, I believe, about the 30th of July. We've had an excellent start to school. I've been really pleased with our school attendance, and we typically have really good attendance, but it's sometimes I find myself saying, I can't believe our attendance is that good amongst our students, and so I think that's indicative of the jobs that our staff are doing at the school. I feel like there's lots of support for our students at the school, and so our students are there. We've also had really good behavior amongst our students to start the school year, and what that allows us to do is get a lot done. We have really been teaching procedures and protocols at the start of the year. We tend to do a lot of that in the first few days of school so that students understand what the expectations are of our kids. And again, it's just been a really good start. Our teachers have worked really well together. We have several new teachers this year at the high school, and I've been really pleased with their work as well. We've got a very good crop of new educators. Our student ambassadors have several things that they're going to share about what activities we have going on at the school over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I will let them share those specifics in a few moments.
Okay.
Mr. Parsley, excuse me, how many students do we have this year in high school?
We are just shy of 1,300 at present. My understanding from Mr. Creek, our testing and instructional coordinator this morning, from, I believe, the first day of school, what we started with to now, I think we have netted about 14 students from the start of school. You always have some students that withdraw and transfer elsewhere. And you have students that enroll, move into the area, and so we have netted 14 since day one, just shy of 1,300 right now. And of course, that is grades 10 through 12. Any other questions?
Yeah, we've got 2 SROs in the high school now, right? So
Yes, sir, we sure do. We
okay.
Sure do. And they are very visible throughout the day, right from about 7 o'clock each morning. You can count on seeing them in our commons area, out in our student parking lot, very visible.
Is this the first year for 2?
Last year was the
Last
first
year,
year.
okay.
Yes. Other questions?
What's the number of our staff, teachers and staff?
Well, so if we count
Everyone.
cafeteria staff, custodians, we are right around 130, and I may be off 1 or 2. We do have an additional custodian at the high school this year, which I appreciated the funding for that. And I believe we're right at 130, including kitchen staff.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Other questions?
Thank y'all for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Parson. That's all of our principals, I do believe. With that, we'll run through the board. Mr. Gilly, you got anything you want to add or need to?
If I could get, if the board, I've heard there's been a little changing with our elementary basketball league.
Yeah, a little bit, yes.
Okay. If we could just kind of get an update on that, and because I've had a few questions about the job posting for that, or the position posting, if that was something, nothing major, just kind of briefing kind of what's going on there, what happened. They don't have to be here if you just send an email or something.
Or you want it now?
No, it don't have
I
to.
want to know too, if that's okay, if you don't mind.
We did have a change in the leadership in the elementary basketball. It has been in the past the high school boys and girls basketball coach. They both have resigned that position of doing the elementary basketball, and it was a stipend position, and Alicia Vaughn is taking that on.
So we are still.
But
having-
otherwise, it's the same program. It's the same program. It's the same elementary basketball. Nothing's changed other than who is in that leadership role.
But as far as, there was no posting because it's not a posted position. There no job description for elementary basketball supervisor or anything like that. It just doesn't exist, and so, that's,
Kinda like a coach.
it's even, I mean, there's not even a coaching position, cause a lot of coaching positions are posted.
Yeah.
In this situation, it would be similar to the theater if there's a theater stipend or something like that, we don't actually, there's not a separate listing for this at all. We have job descriptions for coaches and those kind of things, but we don't, it's just not a separate listing per se.
And Miss Cole. The two things over summer that worried me was, number one, we handled tonight, the 21st Century losing that grant. And then I remembered back before summer, about the start of summer, your concern that this year we're funded and approximately 24, 25 jobs, but we don't know what's going on next week. If we could get some periodic updates, kind of what you're thinking, if you run across anything or for funding,
I wish.
share anytime, please.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind because I probably won't get final allocations. You know, last year, final allocations typically come in, final allocations typically come in years ago, maybe September, October. And the last couple of years, they just keep getting later and later.
Later and
so
later.
last year, I didn't know final until, I think it was April. And that's a scary place to be when you've gone through the school year and funding personnel, not knowing if you're gonna lose $50,000. And it wasn't just us, it was across the state. I'm not sure it's gonna get any better, this upcoming year. It may, but that's a great request. When I find out more information.
Yeah, I just don't want to forget.
Absolutely, I will absolutely share that. I wish I could tell you when it was coming, and I don't know if I will find out final allocations in 2 months or in April. But I will absolutely share that when I get it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes, I know we have a few departing board members here, so I just wanted to thank you guys. And Mr. Crabtree, I know we don't always agree, but I would say that your preparation and knowledge is always an asset to the board. And Ms. Rose, you are such a nice lady, but boy, I will say, when you're in charge of a meeting, you are in charge, so.
Thank you.
And Dr. Nestor, you've been the voice of experience, and I have learned a lot from you the last couple of years, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Really do.
Yeah, I still love you.
Yeah, I do. It's hard love, though, isn't it? Brent?
I'm assuming you all will be here at the next meeting, so, correct?
No, we will not.
Okay. I thought that's when you would turn your seat over, so. Thank you all for what all you do for the community in so many different ways. I'll agree with Mr. Ballard, you handle yourself and your meetings very well.
Thank you.
You say what you mean and you mean what you say, so thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Crabtree. Thank you, Dr. Nestor. One thing I would like to know, maybe if we could just see maybe at the next board meeting or something, just maybe the growth at each school, the numbers and stuff. Don't know if we could get that, just to, I guess that will give us to see what the enrollments are up, so. And if you've sent that out to us, I just didn't see it, so.
No, not
Okay.
yet. Yeah, I usually do a whole district number and several other things. Things will tend to settle down sometime after Labor Day, because what happens is, we have students on our roll that have not shown up. We're contacting, trying to make contact. We can't take them off our rolls until we receive requests for records from wherever they've gone. And if they have traveled somewhere where they have a later start time, then we can't legally remove them from our rolls until that happens. Now, the next board meeting will be in September, and so we should expect to have our rolls
Okay,
pretty solid at that point.
okay. I just thought it would be nice to see that, so, thank you. That's all.
Okay, Miss Jennifer, you got anything else?
I have a couple things. First, I wanted to throw some praise at the middle school. I have a 6th grader this year, and he is absolutely loving it. From sports to his actual classes and work, he is really happy. So whatever's going on over there, thank you very much. Another thing, it sounds like we were kind of living on a prayer with this excellence grant. Are there other programs that we are depending on a grant that we should start developing a backup plan for so this doesn't happen again? Like, I know that's a lot of extra work, but this is a lot. It's kind of scary.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any large programs that are specifically funded by grant funding. Well, Title I, yes, that's federal funding, of a different nature, not, I guess technically that is a grant, so to speak. But, Family Resource Center is one. We have that position that is grant funded, but can be built in.
Do we have backup plans?
Is a major one.
That is true.
And we have one more year on this current plan, then, you know, it depends on what the FCC does, and that's like 400,000 is what we get out of that grant.
I know a lot goes into it. It just seems this was kind of a wake-up call that we need to be on our toes with some stuff.
The planning that we do for that is to build the fund balance that we've built over the last few years so that we can respond. And that's really what you need long-term planning for, is funding, and we have done that.
And the SRO program is grant funding, right? Is that correct?
The SRO it's not a grant to us, though, it's a grant to the sheriff's
To the
department.
sheriff's department.
And Sheriff Parton had already put those SROs in place before the grant funding existed, but those dollars do not run through school district.
Okay. And also, I gave you each a little card, those of you that are leaving, and just say out loud, I will miss all 3 of you, and I appreciate all the things that y'all have done and all the learning you have provided for us newbies over the past couple years.
Miss Frida, you got anything this evening?
No, I just want to echo what Mr. Parsley said about enrollment and what schools had, increased and had to, have new teachers and employees and so forth. It'd be really good to have that in front of us just to see how our system is going right now. And I want to thank all 3 of you too. And I know we've all had disagreed on some things and all this over the tenure, but y'all are 3 professionals, and I appreciate every one of you, and gonna miss you.
Yeah, thank you.
And and one other thing, do we have a policy for AI? I've been seeing this on TV, that's something that we're gonna have to come up with.
The AI section was part of the RUP that the board approved.
Okay.
In June or it was in the summer.
So it's not a separate policy like these?
Not per se, no. It was a part of the responsible use policy that is required we have to maintain for technology. And so it was a section within that, and it was approved by the board this summer.
So that will suffice, because I know some school systems have it in their policy. They're coming up with a policy per se. And I just wanted to make sure that we follow the proper procedures for that.
Yeah, we had to require, in fact, we passed ours before the state actually gave us an example, and we pretty much hit all the bullet points of that example.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rose.
I'd just like to say that although I've only been here 2 years, it's been an honor and a privilege to work with the leadership of Coffee County Schools. I'm especially proud of what we have seen happen in the way of compensation for our staff. I do hope that is a trend that continues because I believe teachers and school staff are extremely undervalued in our society today, and I know how hard you work. And I wish you all the best in the future. And to the students out there, you have some wonderful opportunities in this school district, and I do hope you take advantage of every one of them. Thank you for letting me serve on your school board.
Mr. Crabtree.
I'd just like to say thank you for letting me serve.
And I want to thank these three for the knowledge they have, their love for this county and the students and the system. And thank you for the blessing you've been to us. And we've learned a lot from it. Got a long way to go, but thank you for laying the foundation for us, all three of you. And I'd like to give you a standing ovation.
Thank you. Well, thank y'all, and I really appreciated getting to serve. I'm going to continue to be an advocate for Coffee County Schools. I went through these schools. I love them, and you're going to see me in the schools and at the athletic events, and I do wish this board the best and keep heading in the right directions. I'm just so excited even to see our staff that is so dedicated. And I didn't go into one school the whole time I was here that everybody else, I wasn't excited about their school. And that's a positive thing. That's one thing I can always say. They were proud of their school and what they were doing and the students and the staff. And so anyhow, it's been an honor to serve. So thank y'all very much. He talked.
I started.
He don't get 2 rounds.
I guess I wanted you to talk twice.
I always talk about something.
He probably would if you let him.
So we
I think I
will,
looked at Mr. Cordell and I was thinking.
I'll do it again.
we will move to committee reports. Is anything?
There was one committee that met, and that was the policy committee, and that was the first reading that you saw before you tonight. And we will be reconvening, once we establish a new policy committee, we'll be reconvening from then on. But I don't anticipate any committees meeting between now and next September when we, or in September when we reset those members.
That's one thing you might want to look before you come next September to see if you want to change, because that's when all the committees are set. So look and see if you would like to do something different or kind of have an idea of what you may like before the next meeting. Student ambassadors. We have 2 today, Carly and Layla. And so this is y'all's time. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks for the large crowd we had tonight. And they stayed with us for 2 hours. So
Don't even look
thank
like
y'all
they're
very
sleeping.
much. That was much appreciated. And thank y'all for being here. So I will have you to come to the microphone one at a time. And if you could make your report, but also tell us just a little something about yourself, what your interests are, what you participate in school, and just so we know you just a little bit. And I'd like to turn the floor over to y'all.
Hi, my name is Carly Freeman. I'm a junior representative. So I'm involved in quite a few things. I'm involved in track and field and the dance team as far as athletics. And then obviously student government, FBLA, Beta Club, and Refuge 305. So my main hobbies are my sports and academics, to be honest, but I do enjoy reading and sleeping. So upcoming events we have, so currently sophomores are collecting their signatures to be able to run for student government positions for sophomore class. So next week they'll be running from the 19th through the 23rd for class president, and in the following week they'll be running for the representative positions. For anyone that ran for president and didn't get elected, they can run for representative. And I've heard of at least 10 to 15 people that are planning on running for one of the two positions. So I think it will be a pretty competitive election this year, just like last year's was. And then also the same week as the representative elections, the 26th through the 29th, we have Coffee Pot Week. So we created dress-up days for Monday through Thursday of that week for Coffee Pot. And then I skipped this, but next week is our first football game, and so we're having a home football game against Franklin County, and to kick off the football season, we're having a pep rally that Friday as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Layla Cooley. I'm junior representative for SGA. I am in for clubs. I am in yearbook. I'm also in FBLA and obviously SGA. My hobbies is really just photography. Love taking photos, just of anything that I can take whenever I get the time to. Some of the events we have coming up or later on down the road is that we do have homecoming from the week of the 9th and the 13th. We did send out homecoming court ballots, so if you want to be on there, you fill it out, and the voting will be on the week of homecoming. We also have on the 9th of September, we have, wait no, not 9th, sorry, I'm getting ahead, 5th of September, we have parent-teacher conferences, and after, the day after, we also have Fair Day, so.
Big day.
For sports, golf had their first match today at 1 at Willowbrook. Girls soccer, their first home game is next week at 7 at the Raider Academy. Volleyball also starts next week on the Thursday, if I remember correctly, and that is at 6. And that's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate y'all being here. Is there any questions the board has for either of our ambassadors? Well, thank y'all too. Thank y'all for being here. So. All right, director's report.
Yes, I'm going to end with the director's report. There is no real separate ESSER report. Ms. Cole explained thoroughly what ESSER 3.0 approval and that kind of thing. And I guess the only thing I have for the director's report is restating some of the stuff that board members have already observed. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about each board member, and then, because if I get up there, I move around and I'm not at the microphone all the time. So what I'll do is I'll say a few words, and then I guess I'd like each of those board members, outgoing board members, to come down so that we can have a presentation and get a picture and that kind of thing and go from there. What I tried to do with each outgoing board member was find a word that I thought fit. With Mr. Crabtree, the word I found was thorough. Now, the first thought I had was the pay scales. Even though there has been some talk about who did what, but Mr. Crabtree and I spent many hours going through classified pay scales and getting that work done. And so I appreciate that time, and we spent a lot of time working on it and then handed it to Miss Melson for her to work her magic and find out how to fund it. But I thought that was too specific, and that's when I came up with the word thorough. Thoroughness, his most valuable asset on this board. He made sure that he utilized, I'd never seen a board member utilize the TSBA resources quite as much as he did to find out information. If there was information he desired, he called and discussed topics with me or other school people. He never read something on social media and reacted, like sending out an email and having to recant it later or anything like that. He made sure to follow up and get that information. He never listened to a news bite from a political party online on the news and ignored what he saw with his own eyes in the school district. And so he made sure that he was incredibly thorough in all his stuff. Ms. Rose, the word I came up for you was experienced. When I started here, I had a couple of people on the board who were still in the day-to-day life of a school. Dr. Duncan and Ms. Clanaris were on the board, and so they were still active in schools and saw that from a day-to-day perspective. When Ms. Clanaris rolled off, you rolled on, and you brought a perspective and acted on that perspective to the point that employees actually commented to me, Ms. Rose really seems to get it. She really seems to remember what it was like in a school, and I'm truly going to miss that perspective, because going forward, this will be the first time that I don't have somebody with that perspective. Dr. Nestor, the word I came up for you was competence. Calm, even among the craziness. And I'm going to say the most important competence is quiet competence, and that's what you've displayed in your time as a chairman. Never grandstanding, never trying to impress anybody by making statements anywhere. Multiple employees have noticed and commented, so it's not gone unnoticed. And I appreciate the opportunities we've had as you chair and me as director to sit and discuss topics, prepare for meetings, discuss how to address certain things, and plan those meetings and plan how to proceed. And so I'll miss that interaction, but appreciate that time. If I could get the three of you to come down, we'll just have a quick presentation and be done.
Stand after all that.
You gonna give them their keys to their new car?
Oh.
Gold watch.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
With that, I believe we've accomplished everything that we have set out to do today. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
She's over.